Hey guys, and welcome to yet another HOFA workshop. Today we're going to look at the basics of electronic music production and a little bit of how to set up your DAW, and then we're going to go through a little bit of drum programming, sample selection, sound synthesis, how to start to write your first melodies, and some arrangement. Exactly. As always, I have the chat open right here. If you want, you can just like write hello into the chat or anything. And if you have any questions, then I'll be free to answer them. Just write them into the chat and I will know. All right. So with that said, I think we can go into the start of our workshop. Hey, Domenico. So, first of all, we're going to hold our workshop today in Ableton. Of course, if you use any other DAW or program exactly, then you can use that if you like. Most of the things that I say here will be you'll be able to apply to any DAW or any program or any plugins. You don't have to use the same plugins as I do. You don't have to use the same DAW, but exactly. There's just some small differences. So when we open up Ableton, the first thing we see is our arrangement, no, our session view. And when we click right here, we have our arrangement view. So with the session view, allows us to load in loops, samples, play in loops, and use this section here sort of as a loop pedal, you could say. And that's mostly for live producing, which is not what we are going to do today. So we're going to spend our time in the arrangement window. With the arrangement window, we can see our timeline of what's happening from left to right. So the track begins here, as you can see, bar number 1, second 0, then we have 10 seconds here, 20 seconds, and so on and so forth. Here we have our different channels. In Ableton, we have 3 main types of channels. So we have MIDI channels, which can be used to load up plugins or send out MIDI information onto other tracks. Then we have audio tracks, which we can use to record audio and to load on audio samples if we don't want to use a drum rack or anything else, or a sampler. And then we have return tracks. So return tracks, if you use another DAW, you'll probably know them as auxiliaries or sends. And they are there so we can send our MIDI channels or our audio channels parallel through a return channel that has a reverb on it, for example. So that saves us the time to load up a reverb channel onto every single track, saves us CPU usage, and yeah, it's just a little simpler to work with, especially because you will naturally use the same room on every sound and it will make your sound more coherent, especially if you're beginning right now and you don't know how to use like separate rooms or work with different spaces. Then it's advisable to stick to one room, one reverb at the beginning, and so your sound will be a little more coherent at the end of the production. Then of course we have our master channel, which is our main bus, everything everywhere ends up in the master channel, and we can apply our main bus compression here or a little mastering chain if we like. But personally, I'm a fan of mastering separately in a different session. Exactly. So, with that said, we have our main things out of the way. Then we can look onto the channels themselves. On the audio channels, we can choose our inputs right here and our outputs. As you can see, all channels are routed to the master channel by default. We're not going to go into recording today. That's why I'm going to leave this part out a little. And exactly, yeah. Well, I can do it. Can do it quickly. Off means that you won't hear the sound, even though even though you're recording and have recording enabled right here. Auto will mean that you will hear the sound which is coming into your audio channel, right? Only when you have recording enabled. And in means that if you route audio from any place else to this channel, it will always just run through there, even though even if you don't have recording enabled. Okay, now, okay, 6 minutes gone already. Let's not waste any more time and check out our preferences, which are also very important if you're just starting out. So I'll just run through it, go through the most important things, and I'm not going to go through everything because we already have that in our course. Or if you are looking for an Ableton specific course, then there are different options. But for all the non-Ableton users out there, this is going to be a little boring. So, of course, we can change the look, we can change the language, we can change the theme from dark to bright. I'm not going to change it right now because that's going to be a little bit of a waste of time. Then we have our audio settings, which are mostly important for us now. First of all, you will want to choose your correct audio device. Set up your audio and choose the interface or internal internal sound card of your computer. So right now I'm using the Yamaha Steinberg interface. That's what I'm going to stick to. If we go on to hardware setup, then we can set our device mode. I'm going to leave it at standard. And what's most important for us is the buffer size. The buffer size basically determines how much time your computer has for the audio to run from your interface through your computer, back out of your interface, and into your monitoring system or your headphones. The higher the buffer size is, the longer the latency will be that you encounter. So if you set it really high, you will have, I don't know, if we set it to 4,000 here and go into OK, then we will see our output latency is 51.3 milliseconds. That's already really long. If you want to record basically anything, you should not do it like that. If you want to record, you'll choose a lower sample rate because that will reduce the latency by a lot. So if we go into 96, that's output latency of 4 milliseconds is still a little high, but if we would be to go even lower, we would start to reach the 2 millisecond range. And that's where basically you can't hear the latency anymore. And if you can, you have really good ears. So, also important, the lower your buffer size is, the higher your CPU usage will be. So if you have lots of plugins going on, then it's not advisable to go and record into that project on a low buffer size, because your CPU will just freak out and might cause your program to crash. So when I'm mixing and producing, I will always stay around above 1000 either. So and if you use a lot of plugins, then it's advisable to go as high as possible. All right then. The rest is not going to be important for us right now. On this page, we have our MIDI controllers set up here, and we can check out our control surfaces. If we get a new MIDI keyboard and want to set it up, then there are already lots of pre-mapped control surfaces that you can select right here. Right now I don't have anything set up right here, so I'm not gonna do anything right here. That's also the reason why these here are grayed out, because they're not able to be selected right now. All right then. File and folders, you can choose where your computer stores the files. Not really important for production right now. Library. Plugins. Plugins is also going to be important for us. That's the page where you can scan your computer for plugins. Because I'm on Windows, I only use VST2 or VST3 plugins. Mostly I only use VST3 plugins, because that saves me the effort to go and create a separate plugin folder on my computer, because with the VST3 scan, it will always find the plugins no matter where they are on your computer. And it saves me a little bit of a hassle then. Record, warp. Here we can choose our file type, the bit depth. I like to record in 24-bit because it doesn't take up too much space as 32-bit would do, and we get a little better quality than 16-bit. If you're a beginner, it could make sense to record in 32-bit, because it's impossible to clip your audio if you do it like that. Even if your audio looks clipped, you can mostly just grab the clip gain, pull it down, and it will be a regular audio file. I'm gonna leave it at 24 though. Exactly. We have our warp and loop options, loop and warp short samples. I have it set to automatically. Yeah, because I undo the warping mostly manual, or when I really want something warped, I'll also do it manually. Default warp modes. These will give you different types of warping and will result in a different sound when you stretch or pitch your audio. So if you want the cleanest result, it will mostly be Complex or Complex Pro. I don't know why it's not able to set Complex Pro as a default warp mode, but Complex will give you the best results. Also, if you want to use automation on an audio on the pitch of an audio clip within the audio editor, then you need to do that on Complex mode, because the other ones will do it in steps or not be able to do it at all. All right then, licenses. Okay. That said, let's get into it. Also on the left here, we can have our collections where we can collect our favorite plugins. I only have my favorites here, the ones that I use the most. And on sounds, we have Ableton's internal sounds. Here we have Ableton's internal drums. And here we have our Ableton plugin instruments. And we can select different presets right here. Our Ableton audio effects, I'm just going to rush through it real quickly. MIDI effects, our Max for Live effects. I'm not going to get into Max for Live today because, first of all, I'm not that big of a Max for Live user, and it will be a little bit too much for a beginner workshop. Then here I have my own plugins. You can see with VST3, it's already sorted by companies and have a nice overview without me doing any work. And with VST, you can see I'm a lazy guy. I don't like to make folders, so it's a little bit chaotic right here. That's why most of the new plugins that I install on my computer are going to be VST3. We have our clips, Ableton's internal samples. We have grooves that we can load in, and we have our templates. Templates are really nice if you want to just get going right away without having to set up your DAW and create all the tracks that you want and load in the plugins that that you're definitely going to use every single time. Yeah, it's also a thing I don't do very much, and I should do more. So make a habit out of it while you can. So since our today's workshop is about electronic music production, we're going to make a bass house beat, a whole track from scratch, do the sound design, the drum programming, and I'll walk you through every single step. And that's why I have this template right here. Now we can check out what it looks like. No, I don't need to save changes to this project. No. I'll just have a sip of water. Okay, here we have our bass house template. I've already pre-selected some samples, some different kicks, some different snares and different claps, some different hi-hats, and some percussions right here on the top. That will save us the time to go through Splice or any other website that you'd like to use, or go through my sample packs. Yeah, just saves time in since we only have 2 hours today. I don't want to be sitting around and selecting samples for 15 minutes. If you're still wondering where you can get samples, then you can always go on Google, type in free sample pack and the genre. For example, Cymatics has some really good sample packs. I didn't download anything from them in a while, but I used to a couple of years ago, and it's all top quality. Even the free stuff is the same quality as you would get on Splice or any other platform. At a certain point, I switched to Splice because it's just simpler for me, and I don't want to waste my computer space for loads and loads of sample packs. And with Splice, I can just download the sample that I want right now, and it's only going to be like a tiny bit of space. needed. Okay. With that said, I think we can start producing. I think we're going to start with the drop, because that's going to be our meat and potatoes of this song. And when we have the drop, we can start to care about the build-up, the verse, the breakdown, everything all around. There is no correct path for this. So you could start with the verse, you could start with a build-up, you could start with the outro even. So you can get creative there and do whatever you like. Since we have a limited amount of time, and I want to make sure that we can go through everything needed, we will start with the drop, because that's where we will learn the most about drum programming and synthesis and writing melodies and everything around that. Okay, so I'm going to create a MIDI clip right here with Control-Shift-M. This creates a MIDI clip for us. This is a little. I have lots of kicks right here. I think we should select only one of them, so we have a better overview within our drum rack. Kick number 1, kick number 2, and kick number 3 and 4. I think we're going to go with number 1 for today. And let me delete the rest. Okay. The hi-hats, the claps, the snares, I will keep the rest, yeah. Now, the basis of every single house track is going to be our 4 to the floor beat. Exactly. If you want to duplicate anything from left that you mark from left to the right side, just hit Control D, or on Apple, Command D. Okay, now we have our kick pattern. What's next? So next we are going to need a clap or a snare. For house music, I prefer to use a clap on top of the kick instead of a snare, because it doesn't really have a fundamental tone that could clash with the kick. So I can just show you what it would sound like with a snare. In this case, the snare sounds good as well, and that's a clap. I think I'm going to go with. Yeah, I'm going to go with the last one. Yeah. Could already play that as a DJ set. Next up, most importantly is our offbeat open hi-hat, used in every single house beat at some point. Sometimes it won't be there directly. It will come at a certain point for sure. We have two open hi-hats right here. This one, and I think I like the first one better. Now we're going to do the same thing. And if we want to check out what it sounds like on a different hi-hat, we can just mark everything by either pressing left mouse key and hovering over it, or we can just press the key and it will mark the key it's assigned to on the left, and it will mark everything in that line. I'm not sure. Definitely going to lower the velocity down here. Since everything is marked, I can just pick one of the velocity marking points and drag it down a little. That will save me the hassle of adjusting that later and mixing. So now we're going to add some upper hi-hats. I think we're going to use this one on at our starting point, every second bar. So we can mark them all and pull down our velocity here. Da, 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 da. And maybe add some percussion at the end. Now we can mark all these, drag down the velocity as well. Drag that down a little. And then we could use some snare fills. Why not use some snare fills? Which snare are we going to use? I think that one sounds good for fills. That should be right here. Since we're, it seems to be a thing that I forgot. Since we're in house track, I think 120 BPMs, which is the default of the program, will be a little bit too slow, so I'm going to raise that to 130. I'm going to take that. If you hold Control and drag what you marked, you can just copy everything. Yeah, all of these little things, they will fill up the beat a little more and let the legs shake, you know. So, yeah, when programming on drums, it's advisable to have like small things here and there in between to give the listener some ear candy, something that gives them a little bit of a surprise, so it's not the same thing going on and on for 16 bars straight in a drop. Okay, let's check out what we could do more. Okay, I think it's time to get into sound design. Oh, that rhymed. I'd say let's start with a typical bass house bass. First of all, I'm going to use Serum as my main synth today. If you have any other synthesizer, you can use that. Like we are going to work mostly with basic shapes only, so there's no need for complicated wavetables or yeah, no need for wavetables. A little bit of routing should be possible, but most synths can apply envelopes or LFOs. All right. Yeah, cool. Oh, you were waiting for me to open Serum. Great. And here it is. That was a... Okay. So first of all, I'm going to talk you through the basics of sound synthesis. There are two types of synthesis. Which we are going to focus on today. There are more types than two, but we are going to focus on additive synthesis and subtractive synthesis. And we're going to use a little bit of FM as well. So basically, additive synthesis is when you... FM also falls into the category of additive synthesis. Additive is when you have one waveform, Like, I'm going to turn this down a little because the sawtooth wave by itself sounds not so nice. And now we can add different waveforms on top of that, or exactly, you get the gist. Have different oscillators, add different sounds. You could also let frequency modulate this oscillator by the other oscillator. I'm going to explain that in more depth later, what frequency modulation does and how it actually works, and how you can apply it to make cool sounds. So, what subtractive synthesis is using filters and effects to take away from the main what the main oscillator creates. So we can filter out highs. We can use some of these LFOs to control the cutoff of our filter. We can add even more stuff before that and then subtract. So if now I'm adding a little bit of FM onto my sawtooth wave, will already give us some cool dubsteppy sounds without doing too much work. So this is still fairly simple stuff and sounds like early Skrillex, if you ask me. So I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay, for bass house in general. Oh wait, let me cycle back a little bit. First, before we start creating sounds, I will explain to you what frequency modulation is. So we have already established that we have oscillators. Oscillators have waveforms which are played out. If we go to our basic shapes, different wave shapes, sawtooth wave, triangle wave, it's a square wave, and that square wave. And this isn't a basic shape anymore. And if we have our sawtooth wave right here, and we use a different channel, different oscillator, to frequency modulate, it's the important thing. It says it in the name, frequency. We can switch on this oscillator. I'm going to use a sine wave to show that. And we will drop the octave very, very low. So if we play it, we're not even hearing it anymore. And now, that's our sawtooth wave. We start to apply some FM modulation from oscillator B. And because it's dropped so low, we can, if we give our oscillator A a higher pitch, then you can really hear it. That it just does like a vibrato. So the pitch goes up and down. It modulates the frequency. The thing is, if we do that really fast, so right now we're currently using our oscillator as a low frequency oscillator, as one of these on the bottom here to modulate the pitch. But if we give that a higher octave and the vibrato, and you can think of it as a very, very fast vibrato, and it will result in this metallic sound. And just exactly. And if you use a higher pitch, it will sound more like a 80s FM synth. If you want to go for bass house, drum and bass music in general, makes sense to use a lower LFO on high-pitched oscillators, and you can also create cool effects with high-pitched LFOs on lower oscillators. But we're going to get into all of that when we make the drop, which we are going to do now. So first of all, let's initialize this preset and start from scratch. Typical bass house bass would be made with basic shapes and using sine waves only. So I'm going to go to my basic shapes here. Basically the same oscillator. Going to drop this down by 2 octaves. And going to lower the volume on oscillator B. Exactly. Next, what we are going to do is create some overtones using FM synthesis from oscillator B to modulate oscillator A. Now, if we add some FM, you can really start to hear those nice overtones. That's a little bit too much for... That sounds about right. Now we are going to create an LFO for our filter and map the cutoff. If this comes up and it modulates into both directions, you can easily fix that by going navigating to the matrix and changing the type to a straight arrow. Then it doesn't modulate into both directions, just in one direction. Most of the time, I will just use this setting because here we can set this LFO as an envelope and give it a little more tag. And shorten the decay of this baby. Exactly. So, okay, let's go through what an envelope is. An envelope, we have attack, hold, decay, and sustain settings, mostly. So, mostly not hold, mostly attack, decay, sustain, and release. That's where the term ADSR comes from. So, if we give it a longer attack, it will take more time until the sound can swell up. If we give it more sustain, the sound will be longer, not more decay, sorry. If we give it more sustain, it will be longer at the same loudness at a longer time, or if you map any other value to that, it will do that. And release determines how long it takes for the sound to stop or the modulation to stop until you stopped pressing the key. But I want basically full control, so I'm just going to leave a little bit so it doesn't clip. So it doesn't give those clicks. And then I'm going to reduce the sustain a little bit and give it a little more attack. Maybe we could even use another LFO to modulate the FM. Okay, next we're going to add some distortion, because everybody likes distortion. Maybe some OTT compression, which is the most used compressor preset ever made. They have a standalone plugin version of exactly this multiband compressor, which is actually a preset from Ableton's internal multiband compressor. Let's see. If we do that, we'll need a filter after to reduce OTT's harshness. I think I'm going to decide later if we are going to add some OTT or not. Rather, we're going to add some OTT or not. And we can add a little bit of hyperdimension. Gives us a little bit of a phasey effect. But if you do it too much, it sounds cheap. Sounds too cheap and too wide. Especially on bass. We only want a tiny bit more width. Okay, now we can start to write our melody, our bass line. So, when you don't know how to write melodies or how to write chords, I would advise to check out our music course and our music theory course. But if you're not going to do that, I will give you some short tips along the way. So every scale is built up exactly the same way. So every single scale is built up the exact same way. Basically, I will do it. I will just show it right here in my MIDI field. If we write up the minor scale, we have our fundamental note. Then we skip one note. That's going to be our second note within the scale. Then we have our minor third. Then we're going to skip another note to get to our fourth. We're going to skip another note to get to our fifth. Then we're going to use the next note to get to our sixth. And skip another one to go to our seventh. And then if we skip one more, we have our octave. We have the same back to our first fundamental note of the scale. Okay, we have a question. Salters B. Davis asks, so question, I have Ableton Live Suite 11. Does 12 have Suite 2? Yes, 12 also has Suite. I'm still on 11 myself because I didn't see the need to upgrade personally for me. 12 has some cool new features, but didn't make the difference for me really. Okay, let's get back into music theory. And that's basically the notes that we are going to choose from today. But we're not going to leave it in the scale of D sharp, but we're going to go up in F sharp, up onto F sharp, because F sharp has a really nice resonant fundamental bass frequency. Because anything below D can be a little too low for some sound systems, and everything above G is, sounds a little bit too resonant for my personal taste. And if we are in the key of F sharp, we can choose any one of these notes to write our melody. So I'm going to position this right here so we have it visualized. And when you get more and more into music production and into writing your own melodies, at some point you will remember all the scales in your head and you will not have the need to do something like this. So I'm just going to write a little melody right here. Some dotted nodes. Let's drop the octave. Let's check if we're not too low when we go onto our fundamental. Nah, that's too low. We want. Yeah. That. Duplicate that. Yeah, that already sounds pretty cool. Maybe we can even get rid of that. Now we can duplicate that and make a little alteration. Okay, I think you got the idea of having the scale right next to the notes that we write. For the case of me finishing this pattern, I'm going to delete that now. Before I'm deleting it, another good info. This scale isn't only used to write melodies, but also to find out what chords you're going to play and what chords are going to be within the scale. So when we want to make chords out of the scale, we can pick, like for example, our fundamental note, F sharp, then skip the next note, go to our third note. That will be our minor third. Skip one note, go to the next one, that will be our fifth. And regular chord is made out of 3 notes. I think that's what Salters B. Davis meant when he commented, I like 135. That's basically how every triad chord is made, and there is also 7th chords and 9th chords, but those are the basics that you're going to need. We're going to check out some chords later in more depth, but now I'm going to delete that. Let's copy that. Okay. I think it might be time. We're going to make a lead sound first, and then we're going to make a lead sound, and then we're going to set up our sidechaining. Open another serum. And for that sound, I'm going to tell you a really simple trick in order to make really crunchy lead sounds that almost sound like basses, but they're not really. So first of all, we're going to choose our regular sawtooth waveform, nothing special. Then we are going to select a sine wave. We're going to drop that down until we have a nice bass. Maybe even no, I think 2 octaves will be fine. Now we can add a lot of distortion. And what that will do is the waveform of the bass will also distort the higher pitched oscillator. So when this happens, we get a really, really cool flattery type distortion effect. Let's just listen to it. I just crank up the distortion all the way. This sounds so cool. We can go even lower, I think. And now, after that, we can simply filter out our lows, but we still keep this cool distortion effect. No. So cool. And it's just 2 oscillators. Nothing really special, nothing complicated, no FM synthesis, no wavetables, no filters, only that. Yeah, one filter at the end, yeah. I think maybe we can... Nah, I don't think so. Maybe we can even add a little noise. Yeah, add some noise and it gives it a little bit more of a hiss. Okay, now we will make it mono, make it legato, so it does a pitch drift whenever we switch notes and we're on the same note as before, while we hold the same note that we held before. If we choose always, then it will always drift the pitch. And here we can set the time it takes for one note to reach the other note. So I'm going to, just for example, I'm going to put it up to 300 milliseconds, and then you will see what I mean. If I start at a note at the bottom here, and want to get up an octave, get an octave higher. Let's see how this will take exactly 200 milliseconds to reach the upper C. Yeah. That will be, that's a little too long for me, because I think I'm going to choose some. That could still be cool. I think I'm going to leave it a little longer. Well, we'll see. First, I'm going to lower the volume of this channel. I think we can. Something like that, yeah. And then maybe for the beginning of the yeah, for the beginning of the next two bars, I'm going to start differently and go into the 6th note of the scale. And then go back down again. I think that sounds cool. Copy all that. Duplicate it. Maybe try a different note for this one. Maybe the 7th. Yeah, I prefer the 7th, I think. And since this is a lead sound, we're going to add some reverb. First of all, I'm getting rid of this standard reverb here and add a good old Valhalla vintage verb. Everyone loves it. Nobody hates it. It's brilliant. I'm going to choose a room, and shorten the decay a little bit. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Yeah, that sounds good already. And I know this isn't quite producing, but we are always mixing a little bit when we produce. Like the hands of mixing and producing are always going to be held together when you're producing. It will save time later in the mixing process, and it's an essential part of sound design as well, because you can't really do sound design without doing a little bit of mixing. So, what could we add next? I think some fills would be nice. Let's grab another serum and let's make a growl. This will be our basis for our growl. Again, we're only going to use basic shapes for this one. Remember what I said earlier about using FM synthesis from a lower oscillator, especially a lower lower sine wave oscillator. We're going to drop that by 2. And modulate the FM amount. It's already over an hour. Let's go higher. It's a little too much. Lower again. Now we're going to use a filter. I really like A combination filter. Where is it? This our notch. High notch, exactly, there it is. I love that filter. It gives us simultaneous control about a high pass filter and a notch filter. High pass filter is going to filter out all the low end. Notch filter is going to filter out a certain frequency range, as you can see visualized here. So we're going to what happened here? Exactly, that's how I like it. Going to filter, modulate the notch backwards. Then we add some distortion, as always. Then we can also add a sub that will go directly out, so we don't have the issue of our sub also going through all these effects. Then we will modulate the sub at the level of the sub as well. The notch is not random. I see there's another question by Domenico. So the notch isn't random. The notch doesn't cut out a certain frequency, but it's modulated backwards, and that creates this effect of something like being torn open. I'll show it to you in more detail. Wait a second. If we have, let's take off the distortion and the compressor and use an oscillator that's has some more over. Exactly. So if we do this really slowly, do you hear this almost like phaser type sound that it has on the high end? If we were to use just a regular high pass filter, we wouldn't get that. If we use the notch instead, we do get that. So I hope that was satisfactory from my side. I will go back to making the growl. Again, add some distortion. Make and we can use that as an LFO. So this should be nice. Only one. Maybe some. Maybe. Okay. I'm still not really satisfied with that growl. Yeah, let's use a triangle wave. And maybe a short drum fill from Splice, just to save time. Maybe just pull that in. Wrong track. Put it on an audio channel. Maybe that before and that after. Nah, I don't like it. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into sidechaining. So we might still have some time left to check out the other parts of the song. Okay. I'm going to keep it simple for myself today. I have this sidechain channel here where I could just route everything into. I'm just going to put my sidechain on the synth group. So what you would normally do when sidechaining is you would take a compressor. I'll show it to you. 1 second. There it is. Take Ableton's internal compressor. Then select sidechain and select where your audio gets pulled from. So in this case, I want something else to trigger this compressor, to trigger how this compressor acts. So I'm going to go to my drum rack and select the kick And when I pull down the threshold, you see that the kick ducks down all the elements that go through this compressor. So if we wanted to make it even more hearable, I would pull down the attack as low as possible. I generally always have my ratio as high as I need, because then I know the threshold is always going to be the exact same amount of gain reduction that's applied. Now you can hear it even more. What I prefer is to use something like HOFA-Box. Let's go, grab that little boy. This plugin will let you create your own curve for your sidechain, and you can also pick preset curves and adjust them to your will. It's also possible to trigger HOFA-Box either via MIDI or via an audio source. I'm going to do it via audio, select an external sidechain input, and also select the sidechain input on your plugin. Now you can see that the form of the sound wave from the kick, and we can adjust our sidechain curve accordingly. Yeah, I think we can pull down the amplitude of our lead sound a little bit more. I'll configure the amount of FM to Ableton. That will give me the option to right-click on this parameter and tell it that it should show me automation. And then I can increase the amount of FM at the end of every 2 bars. That will sound like this. This sounds not as nice as I thought. No, I'm gonna leave that be. All right, then let's see if we can still make a build-up and maybe even check out the other parts of the song. I'll copy that first drop to drop 2. You can always like make a different second drop for the purpose of saving time. I'm not going to make a different second drop. There are some questions. Okay, Parshva wants to know how he can increase the loudness of his songs. So, generally, there are different ways to increase the loudness of your songs. If you really want to go into depth, then I'd advise you to check out our mastering course. I'll give you a short rundown. You can increase loudness either by using saturation or clipping. So when you want to increase loudness, the main thing you want to do is you want to decrease the peaks. So that will give you the option to pull up the mix as a whole. So you want to cut off any peaks with a clipper. Maybe use a compressor to squeeze everything even more together. But be careful not to use too long attack times, because that could increase dynamics again. And then, of course, the good old limiter to increase your loudness. Yeah, you said that you use saturation, but I wouldn't. I would be careful with saturation on whole mixes, because it can really far can result in something unwanted really fast. Stick to dynamic tools. Okay, now for our build-up. I'm going to grab a riser from Splice because I'm really lazy. Let's see what they got. I can even pull my Splice window up here. We have another question, and is there a way that you can review my production? Yes, there is. We regularly have workshops similar to this one that are called Show Your Mix. And when we have those workshops, then you can send in any of your productions to our email address, and then we will react to it live. I want a longer riser. Yeah, we'll use that. And we will use that. Let's make some audio tracks for that. Control and T creates new audio tracks. Open Splice. Pull in our risers. Leave that there, that there. Adjust the loudness a little bit. And then we can grab a scratch sample from Splice. I think I saw one earlier right here. Just a bass house. Where is it? bass house, scratch. Yeah, let's just take that. And then we can chop this up a little bit. Now what we can do is take the audio from our synthesizers and resample it onto a new audio track. So I'm going to right-click on input, click resampling, leave this off because we don't want to hear anything double, and then solo this group only. And then we can click on record. Okay, that will be enough. I see there are some more questions. Splice seems to be like a good tool to use. Is there any other tool that works as good as Splice? Not really that I know of. There are other tools, other websites where you can download samples from, like Tracklib is a cool site because it also allows you to sample licensed songs, and they will take care of the licensing for you. Maybe I could do a workshop about that some other time. But no site that I've heard from works as good as Splice for me, because the integration of Splice and into the DAW is just seamless. You can just like take any sample I have here, just drag it into my DAW, see how they sound. It's cool. Love Splice. Yeah, and yeah. How would someone add songwriting to this, or say vocals? How would someone add songwriting to this, or say vocals? By recording vocals, I'd say. I can, if we have, we only have 25 minutes left for the workshop. If we have time, then I will check out if I can find some vocals on Splice and see if we can add them in. Can you explain more about gain reduction settings? I'll go through it really, really quick, okay? So, we'll use just our drum rack to explain that. And grab a compressor. So for the gain reduction settings, if we have our drums right here, first of all, the threshold determines at which point the compressor starts to reduce gain. And our ratio will tell us how much gain reduction is going to be applied. So if we have our ratio at 2:1, then the gain reduction, the gain will be reduced by half from the compressor. Where is my compressor now? Fuck it. I'll just take another one. Exactly. As I said, ratio, everything above the threshold will be reduced by half. If I have my ratio at 2:1, if I have it at 4:1, it will be reduced by a quarter. Exactly. And that's the main controls. Then we also have attack and release time. Attack will let us determines how fast the gain reduction is going to be applied, how fast the everything is going to the sound is going to become quieter. The release controls how fast or how slow the curve will go back to normal loudness. So when I reduce the release time, you can see that that curve will become shorter. And if I increase the attack time, you will see that the curve on the beginning becomes longer. Okay, so that's it for dynamics. He means to say the cadence of the lyric and vocal. Yeah, I know, but it depends. Like how this workshop is about electronic music production, not songwriting. If you want to know more about that, then you can check out our songwriting course at some point. Most importantly is stay within the rhythm and stay within the key, or smash auto-tune on it. Or if you can rap, then rap on it. But like I can't explain that in more detail because we don't have the time. So let's get back to our workshop. So we have, let's make everything. So we have our loop from the drop within the build-up now. You can hear that. Exactly. What we are going to do now is filter everything out using an EQ. So first of all, we're going to cut out the low frequencies, because when the drop hits, that's the point when we want our low frequencies to hit. We don't really want them in our build-up phase. We can use them in our kick if we have a kick pattern, but mostly at the end of the build-up phase, most of the time you will filter out all of the lows, just so the drop can hit a little harder. And then we'll filter out the highs and automate the cutoff for the highs. So we have no, it's enough when we have it until here. And then we will smash a reverb on there. Use the same one that we have in our send channel. And we're going to automate the mix value of it. So we already have the mix here. Show automation, and we will decrease the mix. So it's very reverbery at the beginning and then loses all reverb after. Now we only need some sort of, now we need some sort of impact for the beginning of our build-up. You'll also find impacts in any sample library. That one's good. And that one. Let's grab this. Okay. Lower these in volume. Now we'll duplicate our drum track so I can create some build-up drums. Command-Shift-M to create the clip. And now we're going to use the snare. Now you can also add our kick. Maybe do some dotted notes. We're going to filter all of that out in a second, don't worry. Exactly. Now we're pull down the volume of that and use a filter this time, not an EQ, auto filter, to reduce low end. Also want to reduce the volume of the kick. Automate the frequency of the cutoff. Dun, dun, dun. And we can also automate the amount of resonance that's going to be there. Okay, let's see if there are any other questions. Thank you very much that y'all like the song. I think it's a banger too. . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . . . . . 。 . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . .
。 .
Okay, now we can have a look at our verse. We have another 15 minutes. Let's see if we can create a verse really, really fast. Okay, we need our 4 to the floor. Going to go through the same procedure as before. Going to need our clap. We can keep them a little lower in volume than in our drop. In total. And let's see if we can add some bass. Yeah, let's keep it a little. Let's keep it simple. Make one clip out of that. Consolidate by using Command J. Can add a higher note here. That sounds good. Okay, and for the verse breakdown, I think we can use a theorem that's outside of the group, because now we're going to make some chords. Oh, let's see if we can find a vocal real quick.
In my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Like a
I think we can use that. Let's put it on our audio clip then.
Like up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Like up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck.
Change the warp type to repitch. So then when you stretch it, it just makes the vocal deeper.
Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger, finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Back up, they wanna test my
Added the S-er because the S sounds sound horrible in that vocal.
back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger, finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger, finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger, finger on the trigger, I ain't never give. Back up.
Then you add some hi-hats in the second part.
Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger, finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger.
And now, beat breakdown. Let's choose some presets for a change. Check out the pads. Yeah. Now let's add some chords. We're in F sharp. That means our fundamental will be an F minor.
Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger, finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Back up.
Add the vocals here.
Back up in my pocket, guess they. Back up in my pocket, guess.
And then automate the delay on the last part, I think. Use the pen. Like that.
Back up in my pocket. Back up in my pocket.
Add some more chords for later. Yeah, let's go there. Now I'm going to make an inversion, which I'm also not going to explain because we have 5 minutes left.
Back up in my pocket. Back up in my pocket. Back up in my pocket.
Create a bass with serum that's going to sit within the sidechain. Da, da, da. Okay. Some sine wave, some distortion. Not going to make it any more complicated than it needs to be. and go to F sharp.
Locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my pocket.
That's where we are at. 1, 2, 3. Okay, go up to the B.
Locked up in my pocket. 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 Locked up in my pocket.
Take that. Parshva asks if we can go a little over time, please. It depends. I have to get. I'll wait for a signal that allows me to go over time, and if not, I can't. I'll probably can go for like 5 minutes or something, but we'll see. If I get a signal, then maybe. Okay, I can go over time. And
Locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my pocket.
okay, then I will resample the lead sound from the job. I will resample that again. No. Only the lead sound though, without the bass. And I can put that right here in the background. Let's see what the automation says about the reverb. Show automation. Okay, we don't want that. We want it to be a little more like that.
Locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my
Or maybe a little less.
locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my pocket. Locked up in my pocket.
So I did that so because the breakdown part is, I don't know, I'm not really happy with it right now. But it is what it is, and since I'm already over time, then
Locked up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my
Since we're already over time, I am not going to make a completely new breakdown part.
lock up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Lock up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Lock up in my pocket. Lock up enough, lock up in my pocket. Lock up in my lock up enough, lock up, never giving up.
Let's see if we can grab a tom fill from Splice. Let's just take that.
On the trigger, I ain't never on the trigger, I ain't never giving up.
Nah. That does not fit too well. Okay, now a cool trick. We know that the BPM of this is 115. We can warp this now using any of our warp modes. Just have to add warp. If the BPM, if it doesn't warp correctly, then we can change the BPM right here within the warping channel. Now we set it to 115, and this should fit right in. Come on, let it. Doesn't want to let me type it. No, I'm going to use repitch so we don't get any warping artifacts. This will change the pitch, like said before, but yeah, like that. Okay. And then we could do something for the post drop, like taking the main drop, copy and pasting it, leaving away the lead sound, and adding the vocal. Then we'll copy our breakdown part and build up, even though I'm not so happy with the breakdown part. Copy the whole second drop there. And a cool thing we can do now is let the drop go without drums for the first 2 bars, but or still keep on the sidechain. Yeah. I think since everything that goes into the sidechain only needs to be sidechained also while the kick plays, we can set it back to sync, so it also sidechains while no kick is playing. You could do it like by making ghost sidechain and letting it react to that, but that would be more work, and I already held a complete workshop about sidechaining. If you want, you can check that out at some point. Yeah, and a small drum fill before that. Just use that one from before. Maybe we can copy that growl and put it right behind and add something to it. Maybe more of M. Ah, I see where the problem is. Shaper box needs to be set to fourth notes, not to bars, to. Oh, maybe something from here. Where's my F sharp? Let's just use that. Without. All right then. Then for the outro, we can just let a kick loop go on to make it all DJ friendly. Maybe make that one a little quieter. And maybe use the bass line from the verse. No, I don't. I would just use the beginning from the lead melody, I think. Yeah, and maybe decrease it so we don't have such a long outro. The kick could have a fade out and reverb automation. Some Parshva writes in the chat. Sure. Let's do that. Let's grab the same reverb that we used here. Put it onto our drum rack. Set the mix to 0 and then go automate. the mix. Opa. We want that to be a little bit shorter, and we don't want any low end. Yeah, something like that. You could really get creative with building intros and everything. You can also add the impacts that we used for our pre-drop. That's already a cool outro. And we'll add reverb at the last note. Nah, I think we're gonna do it with delay. Huh? And we can also do some more reverb on the last one too. Okay. For the intro, I would not do anything special right now. Maybe because we're already almost 15 minutes over time. I can't go over time too long. So I'm going to show you another very cool trick. I'm going to take this reverb, smash it onto this pad right now. That's pretty... Lots of producers use that. Just smash on a very long decay time. Yeah, we're going to listen to the song in a minute. And solo that. Take it out of the group so it doesn't get sidechained. Solo that. And resample here. Okay. Now we can delete the reverb we had, pull that back into our group, get that back to normal, bring this back here, and press, first of all, I'm going to give it a little bit more gain. And now press R to reverse. Now we have a cool tonal harmonic riser. Okay, now let's listen to the full song. I'm even going to turn up here so it's more enjoyable.
Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving up. Back up in my pocket, guess they wanna test my luck. Finger on the trigger, I ain't never giving in my pocket.
All right. I think that's about it then. Yeah, so that was the workshop. I hope you could all get your questions answered. And if you have any further questions or like to know anything else, I saw that some of you asked, is this song going to be posted? No, I'm not going to post the song. This is totally only for this workshop. This is only for you guys to learn something from. And yeah, so I'm glad you all enjoyed the workshop, as I can read in the chat. And then maybe see you another time. Bye bye, and enjoy producing. Ciao.